Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the North Kesteven series. This is a large Lincolnshire district centred around the town of Sleaford. There's 75 parishes here, so let's take a look at one of them. Welcome back to North Kesteven, everybody. Now, a couple of episodes ago, I was very unlucky and I couldn't see anything of Somerton Castle, which is in Boothby Grafo. Here, though, there will be some castle remains to see. We're in the parish of Wellborn. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Continuing down the Lincoln Cliff, we're almost now at the border between the two Kestevens, but not quite. Welcome to Wellborn, situated just off the A607, 11 miles south of Lincoln and 8 miles northwest of Sleaford. It covers 3,300 acres, almost all of which is given over to large-scale arable farming. The name Wellborn derives from the Old English wella-burna, meaning stream with a spring, and that ties in nicely with what we already know about the cliff villages. Wellborn was the site of a castle centuries ago, and the remains of that castle can still be seen in the form of a medieval ringwork. The village has a long history from the Roman period and possibly earlier. The major Roman road, Ermine Street, can still be traced clearly as the eastern parish boundary. The place name dates back to Anglo-Saxon times, as does, it's believed, the layout of the settlement. It's had a few important residents, including former rector Francis Trigg, who's credited with the creation of the first ever public library. The anti-slavery campaigner and academic Peter Peckard was born in the village too, but Wellborn's most illustrious son was Sir William Robertson, a field marshal in the British Army who served in World War I. The local secondary school is named after him. He's the only soldier in the history of the army to do one specific thing. Come with me around Wellborn to discover what that was. Our start point in Wellborn is the village shop, which has this little pond opposite it. This is known as the Beck. Next door is the village hall, a modern building which provides the village with a space for activities and functions. On the wall there's a simplified map of the village showing you what's where. This is the Wellborn Heritage Trail. There's a pretty mosaic on its wall too, which was created to celebrate the Queen's Diamond Jubilee in 2012. Wellborn's playing field is behind the hall. It's available for sports events and even includes a tennis court. There's also a decent-sized children's play area, and it's ideal for camping and caravan rallies, so says the Village Hall's website. Oh, and let's not forget the parish notice board is here too. That's 8 down now in North Kesteven and 67 to go. As we leave, you might be able to hear me chatting to someone in the background. I'll explain who that was shortly. Across the road you'll see what looks like a field with a footpath running through it. This, though, is no ordinary field. This was the site of the 12th century Wellborn Castle, and we're about to walk through the earthwork remains. Okay, the chances are that you've probably heard of me before this video even comes out, because I've just had a nice conversation with the editor of the Parish magazine, who has offered me the chance to write something for it. So you may well have seen me in the Parish magazine before now. Right, we are making our way across the remains of Wellborn Castle. It's not the biggest of castle mounds that I've ever seen before, as there is a slight hill on this footpath. We're heading towards the church. We'll talk a bit about the castle on the way, and then we'll end up in the churchyard in a moment. Known as Castle Hill, despite not being the biggest hill ever, the remains of Wellborn Castle are a medieval ringwork. The site was purchased in 1998 by Welbourn Parish Council and is now maintained as a scheduled monument and communal space. The space can be accessed from the other end via a bridge which crosses a stream connecting it to the high street. I would imagine that this was once the castle's moat. It seems highly likely given its ditch-like appearance. This northern part of the village contains lots of attractive and informally grouped stone buildings surrounded by mature trees. This area also contains a beehive well, one of few examples of a type of traditional water supply point. The whole area is dominated by the spire of the parish church, towering over everything below it. Let's have a look. Okay, and we've arrived at the entrance to the church with its grand tall spire, which you currently can't see because it's behind this tree, but you will do in a moment. This is the parish church of St Chad. Welbourn is rightly proud of its unique Grade 1 listed church building. The oldest part of this medieval structure is the tower. It dates from the 12th century but was part of an older Saxon church, which was mentioned in the Domesday Book. In its grounds is the War Memorial, which was unveiled by Wellborn's own Field Marshal Sir William Robertson in May 1920. The church tower is topped by an impressive 14th century spire, its inward curving shape making it a local landmark. The rest of the church is a mixture of early English, perpendicular and decorated styles, built between 1200 and 1500. Wellborn's rector is also responsible for the adjoining parishes of Leadenham, Brant Bruton and Beckingham. The churchyard is lined with lots of very old graves and tombs, including this cluster which took my interest. The churchyard's gates are also a memorial. As you can see, they're for King George V and they were erected in 1936. Okay, so biggest historical landmarks out of the way, it's now time to walk around the village proper. And Wellborn is made up really of two streets, High Street and Back Street, which you would have seen on that schematic on the village hall wall. It's the High Street first and then we'll come along Back Street to finish. Do you remember that freak weather event that destroyed the church in Boothby Grafo in 1666? Well, it had an effect here too. It damaged or destroyed almost all of the 80 stone cottages Wellborn had at that time. Just 3 were left standing. As a result, Wellborn's oldest houses tend to be 18th or 19th century efforts. Let's see what stands here today. This house is an old Wesleyan chapel which was established in 1839. Now closed, the chapel is a private residence. Then we have the school, a modern building. This stands on the site of Wellborn's original school, built in 1865. A significant proportion of the houses here are built in the traditional local materials, limestone and red clay pantiles. This gives Wellborn a consistent sense of unity and character. Most of the village is a conservation area. Here's the only pub in the village, the Joiners Arms, which has occasional quiz nights, music and other social events. Okay, so we're about halfway down the high street. At the end of it, it ends in a village green, and at that point we'll take a left turn and start heading up back street, back towards where we started. At the end of this episode, there's going to be two things which I need to drive to. One of them is Wellborn Hall, and the other one is a school, but we'll save them for when we get there. This is Wellborn Manor, a small country house dating back to the early 14th century. This is its rear entrance. It was heavily restored in 1904 and it's now used as a residential care centre. Nice place to spend your golden years. Now we're approaching the end of the high street and we're heading for the 1864 built former blacksmith's forge. In 1987, North Kesteven District Council purchased this and its contents as a unique example of the area's rural heritage. In 2000, its fires were lit for the first time in over 30 years. Over the road there's a former shop, and it's also unique. This has the Wellborn praise poem on two of its window panes, written in true 19th century Lincolnshire dialect. Created by the historian Dave Reeves and some local school children, it's fiendishly hard for a non-Lincolnshire native to understand. Now to the green, a fine focal point around which there's another attractive collection of stone buildings. The green also has the phone box, and it was here where the first ever rural cooperative in Lincolnshire was established. We're heading north next, but this is the view south here towards Wellborn Hall, literally just around the corner. The green is where you can pick up the local bus service. I don't think I really need to tell you what number by now, do I? I will do though for those who are new. Once again, it's the number 1 between Lincoln and Grantham here. The bus stop is outside Cooperative Cottages, which was the birthplace of Sir William Robertson. There's more on him shortly. So this is where we're going to be driving to in a few moments' time. Wellborn Hall is just around that corner, and the school is on the A607 just beyond that. So we'll get to both of those things in a few moments' time. But for now, we're going to complete the walking route by going up Back Street, which is this road right here, and it'll take us back to where we began. That awkward moment when you realise it's not Back Street, and I'm sure loads of you have been saying this as you've been watching this video. It's Beck Street. I didn't realise until literally just now. These two buses are kind of in my way, but I'll show you. It is Beck Street, look. Here we are, look. Beck Street. It's an E, not an A. Now that we've established the correct name of the street, here's some of its features, including this nursery. Rather oddly, it's Beck Street and not the High Street, which is the main commercial and communal focus here in Wellborn. This is Little Lane, which connects the two together. Once again, it's another typical narrow cliff village street, isn't it? Almost done. Now, I know there are things I've not walked to or mentioned here, like for example the remains of a former windmill. We've also not yet seen the shop, but here it is right now. This also doubles as the village's current post office. In the wall of the cottage next door there's a notable post box, this one from the time of King George V. And lastly, between the shop and the car are two more houses that I quite liked. What a beautiful village Wellborn is. Okay, so now we've reached the end of the walking route after having cleared up the issue of Beck Street. I'm not going to live that one down, am I? I'm pretty sure everyone out there's laughing at me right now. Well, you know, it's one of them things, you know, when you're trying to read a map and you've got a pair of sunglasses on, sometimes A's and E's can look the same, can't they? Anyway, you get the idea. Let's go to Wellborn Hall then now. That means driving down Beck Street, and the hall is on the right hand side, and we'll see what that's all about. This is Wellborn Hall, a beautiful and majestic Victorian building which, like Wellborn Manor, is also used as a nursing home. It's run by Wellborn Healthcare Limited and caters for people aged 65 and over with dementia or physical disabilities. Unfortunately, rather like Somerton Castle, Wellborn Hall isn't the easiest thing to see, owing to its surroundings. Historically speaking, very little seems to be known about the hall either. It was once lived in by the Ridgehill family. Now to the A607 and to the school, the Sir William Robertson Academy, named after Wellborn's most famous son. This caters for around 890 pupils, and it's sited on a former World War II munitions dump, which was used by nearby RAF Wellingborough. The school has 4 houses: Simler, Dragoon, Chitterell and Lancer, named after experiences in Sir William Robertson's life. I'll tell you one thing these school children have: a great view. Check this out. Every time they come out of school, they see this. Right lucky, aren't they? Brilliant. Born in Wellborn in 1860, Sir William Robertson was a Field Marshal of the British Army, the highest possible army rank. He was nicknamed Wooly. Robertson is the only soldier in the history of the army to have risen from an enlisted rank to Field Marshal. He served as the professional head of the army from 1916 to 1918, a title known as Chief of the Imperial General Staff. Robertson had increasingly poor relations with the then Prime Minister David Lloyd George and threatened resignation at Lloyd George's attempt to subordinate the British forces to the French Commander-in-Chief Robert Nivelle. In 1917, Robertson supported the continuation of the Battle of Passchendaele, at odds with Lloyd George's view that Britain's war effort ought to be focused elsewhere until the arrival of sufficient US troops on the Western Front. He died in 1933 and he's buried in Surrey at Brookwood Cemetery. And with that, that's Wellborn in the books. It's time to move on now to the last of the cliff villages in North Kesteven, and one that has almost as much history as this one does. Join me there next week as we take on a place with another tall and distinctive church spire. See you later, everyone. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.